Hey guys, welcome to today's video where I am going to be sharing with you my homeschool routine and how we stay on track. So let's jump in. Okay, like I said at the top of the video, this is my homeschool routine with the boys. It's what we do pretty much every weekday. And I'm going to go through our routine and then kind of share with you some of the ways that I make sure that we stay on track so that we don't fall into the trap of getting behind. But also still maintaining the benefit of homeschool of being able to work at our own pace. So our basic homeschool routine on any given day, we start with what I just kind of refer to as calendar. It's basically like our business for the day. So I will start with our date, the month, day, week, all of that. Any things that are coming up in the calendar we'll go through because I'll have like birthdays or holidays or whatever listed on there. And we'll go through the season really quickly, what day of school we're on because we always do a 100-day party. We go through our vocabulary words for the week. We will go through, we have a word of the day. I got this on Amazon. I'll put a picture of it here so you guys can see it. We just basically go through a word of the day and kind of... There's a little thing on the back that tells you like the etymology, word pairs, synonyms, things like that. So we go through that. And then of course we also do a poem every month. Last year we focused on the poems of Shel Silverstein. This year we're doing Marilyn Singer. It changes every month and it's usually, I try to kind of make it fit whatever season we're in if I can. If not, it'll be about growth or something fun for them. So we'll go through that and then I will start to read at minimum a chapter of whatever book we happen to be reading in school. Right now, this school year, we started off with The Famous Five from Enid Blyton. We've read a bunch of her stuff last year. We also did Roald Dahl last year. We'll probably do Roald Dahl again. We've done the Mysterious Benedict Society, things like that. So right now, I think we're on book 6, something like that. So I'll read at least a chapter. And while I do that, the boys are allowed to color, they can kick back if they want to lay down under our table, whatever they want to do, as long as it's quiet, they can do it. And I find that starting the day this way helps us to kind of slide into our school day, and they're a little bit more receptive when it comes down to actual, like the nitty-gritty stuff like math or something. I used to try to get math over and done with first, and I got a lot of pushback just because their brains weren't turned on yet. So I found by starting the day this way, we're able to ease into our school subjects a little bit easier with less resistance, and they're kind of readied that way. So we always start the day that way, and then we of course move into our school subjects, and sometimes it'll be, reading books or computer work. Occasionally I'll give lectures and stuff like that. We'll have like a discussion. Sometimes we watch documentaries, or if there is for example, if there's a Magic School Bus episode or a Brainchild episode that pertains to what we're learning, I'll incorporate that into our school day. Sometimes we'll do like field trips, little ones here and there around town. Sometimes like we've done our schoolwork at McDonald's, you know what I mean? Just to kind of get out of the house and keep things a little bit fresh, and it's kind of fun and exciting for them. And of course we have that option, so that's nice. And honestly, that's basically how our school day goes on average. We usually spend around 3 hours a day on school, and then that is our schedule for Monday through Thursday. On Friday, we have what I call tea. If you are a homeschooler, you are probably familiar with Poetry Tea Time. Julie Bogart is a huge proponent of it, and she, in fact, is how I heard of it. We don't necessarily focus on poetry. We will basically set up tea, have a snack, we'll go through our calendar as usual, and then I'll spend more time reading whatever book we're reading while the kids work on a project that has something to do with what we've been learning that week. For instance, this week, particularly with O, he's starting to learn about what makes up a community and how communities are formed, what your responsibilities are in the community, things like that. It's basically civics for little guys. And of course, to make it more interesting for G, I added in like city planning, what goes on with, you know, building structures, different types of zones, things like that. So this week, and it's Friday, so today we did tea. We baked some Nestle Toll House cookies, super easy, just threw them in the oven. We got some iced tea because it's still hot here, and they planned a city on a big piece of butcher paper. They got out crayons and markers. They could have done 3D if they wanted to. I just kind of left it up to them, and I wanted to see where they went with it and how they did it, kind of what they absorbed for the lesson. And they planned a city with parks and roads and buildings and dwellings, schools, things like that. We basically spend our Fridays doing something like that. It's a little bit more fun, a little bit more kickback. And then at the end of all of that, I'll have them, sometimes we'll do like ABC Mouse just for fun. He likes playing with his avatar and things like that, but just to kind of get him well-versed on using a computer. And then G will do typing, and O will start typing next year, just so that they are really good, at typing, because as they get older, high school, college, and honestly, even junior high and elementary school, pretty much everything's going to be typed for them. Basically, that is our school week. Now, how I make sure that we stay on track, I do a couple of things. For instance, I had mentioned in my previous video that we were starting school a little bit early this year because we plan to do a little bit more traveling than usual. Usually, I like to start our school year at the beginning of September. It's, well, not technically fall, we're heading that way. It's back to school time. It has that kind of feel to it. So I always start us in September. But again, because we were doing traveling and because I did not want to focus too much on schoolwork while we were away, we will be doing like a version of unschooling while we're there. But I didn't want to have to like hit the books or anything, but I also didn't want to get behind. So I started us earlier. So I kind of built in a buffer system, and I highly recommend you do that. If you know you're going to have big trips or it's going to be a busy season for you, kind of start early if you need to. I also do this, like my husband will almost always work Memorial Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day. He's usually at work on those Mondays. And whereas most schools are closed during that time, pretty much all of them really, we still do school that day. And that way, anytime during the school year, if we just want to take off midweek, we can do it. And it's not a big deal because I've built in a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of comfort there where our schedule isn't squeezed so tight. We have that kind of extra work already to where we can take off. Like Tuesday, my husband's like, let's go to Legoland. We went to Legoland and it was great. And I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, but we're going to fall really behind if we keep doing that. So that is something that I strongly encourage any homeschooler to do, is to build in something into your schedule that allows you to be a little bit more flexible. You kind of put the work in earlier, and that way later on, if you need to take the day off, it's not a big deal. And honestly, there have been times, it doesn't happen too often, maybe once or twice a year, if the kids are having a bad day or if I'm like crazy busy with something, where I say, okay, you know what, guys, we're not going to do school today. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. I don't do that too often, and I encourage you not to do that too often because it's very seductive to do that. You have that ability. But save it for a day when you really, really need it, when it's just like too much and you guys just need to decompress. Go ahead and take that day because you've built it into your calendar, the comfort zone to do it. You know what I mean? So that is like the first major way that I like to stay on track. Another couple of things that I do, I always do lesson plans. I don't have like a purchase curriculum and my kids don't do online school. I basically make our lesson plans for us and I write them out. This is a planner that I got at Target. This one's specifically for teachers, and it is the Simplified Planner. I've used the Simplified Planner before, I've used a couple of different planners. I just basically want something that has this kind of spread, at least 2 sections. This one has it set up to where it's only midweek. It only has Monday through Friday, and it continues on both pages. So I use one section for G stuff, and then I use the other section for O stuff. And there's some stuff that they do in tandem, like science, it's usually in tandem. If we're learning about something important that, you know, historically important in social studies, they'll do it together, just kind of like toned down versions for O, because he's only a first grader. But obviously math, spelling, English type stuff, they're going to be at different levels, so they're going to be doing different activities. And I will kind of stagger them. When I'm working with one specifically, I give the other independent work that I know that they can do on their own, and I like switch off. And honestly, hey, if we need extra time and the other one's waiting around for me, go do reading, or go do a puzzle, or go outside and ride your bike if you want, and I'll call you when I'm ready for you. I don't really think that that's a big deal. Even if you want to go watch a little bit of television while I'm working with your brother, that's fine by me. So I just make it as easy as possible for you so that you don't get overwhelmed and you kind of like are juggling too much. Make it manageable for yourself, and it's okay to do that. It doesn't have to be so structured, and you're homeschooling, you're home educating. It doesn't have to be like school. So that's another way that I keep on track. I basically, whatever lesson, I just put like a little heading so that I remember to do it and nothing gets kind of like left by the wayside. And that keeps me on track for the week. And then if I miss anything, or we run out of time before we have to go somewhere, or if we're like on like a really good roll with something, sometimes the kids will get really into a subject and we'll kind of do a deeper dive, and we'll have long conversations where we're looking stuff up and discussing it. I do not stop those. If that is happening, that's magic. That's kind of what you want. I keep that going for as long as I can. And if something else gets missed for that day, that's fine by me, because they're learning and they're engaged with what they're learning. And those are the kinds of things, and you know it as a former student, those are the kinds of things that once you get involved with that, when your teacher was kind of really on a roll and you were learning something really interesting, those kind of lessons stick with you. And we all have those things in school that stuck with us, and it's never from a worksheet. Hands down, it will be some sort of discussion or project or neat story about something that your teacher told. And so when that kind of thing happens, when we are sitting down doing school, I roll with it. And if I miss something on Monday, I'll just move it to Tuesday, no problem. And writing it down like this helps me to keep track of that and move it to where I need to and kind of shift our schedule around as needed. Another way that I keep on track is when I'm doing my lesson plans, I will actually open up the standards for my state. I live in California, so I'll open up the California Department of Education. They will have a listing of all their standards available online. And I just kind of go through it for their grade, make sure I'm getting what it is that they need to know to stay on track with their peers. And so they're not missing anything. And of course, I tailor it to their interests. Like for instance, G is really into botany. He loves plants. If we are in social studies right now, 4th grade is big for learning California, not only history, but like geography and topography, things like that. So we can study native plants of California, what region in California they are native to, and even like, where our wine country is, and how the different regions in California shape what is grown there. We're a big agro state. We have a ton of vineyards. We have coastal vineyards. We have vineyards in like the Inland Empire. They're all over, and how each of the weather patterns and topography affect the plant growth. So I can take his interest and immerse him in it while also showing him California history and geography as well. So that's just an example of how I kind of make sure that he's staying on track academically while still tailoring to his interests. And I do the same thing with O. So I look at the standards, make sure that I'm covering it, but covering it in a way that's palatable to my children and at a pace that they're comfortable with. And if they need a little extra time, cool. If they are like, okay, mom, I got this, we're done, moving on to the next one. You know what I mean? I can kind of keep it at their pace while making sure that I'm hitting those standards. So that's something that I also encourage you to do if you are, I know that like unschoolers are a little bit probably leery of that, and that's fine. That's a specific philosophy that people tend to, feel very strongly about. I'm a very eclectic homeschooler. I use a bunch of different methods, whatever works for me for that subject and whatever works for my children for that subject. But you want to make sure that your kids are getting what they need when they need it, kind of. And that is a huge way of making sure that we do not get behind. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this video is because I was on Reddit reading through a homeschool subreddit. I follow a homeschool subreddit. I even follow teaching. I highly recommend following teaching subreddits too, just like as an aside. But, and it was a woman who said that her son wanted to go back to regular school, which she was fine with. But he was a 6th grader still doing 4th grade work. And she felt really guilty because she let them kind of slack. And apparently this isn't too uncommon with some homeschoolers. And I understand that some people, staying on a schedule is kind of difficult for them. And also, like, I'm sure a little bit of it was, working at the child's pace, which in homeschool, if you're staying in homeschool, it's not a big deal because you have kind of all of that time to get it done. But if your child wants to go back to public school, that's where you have a problem. And, I realized that this might be a problem for a lot of people. And how do you manage that? Some people are better at managing it than others. I'm a very regimented person, but I kind of got into that habit just from college because some of my classes, yes, I would take in person, and then some of my classes were online, and online classes were still kind of new when I was in school. They were still kind of like ooh, you're taking it online? How mysterious. How easy. How awesome. You can do it at your own pace. Kind of. But if you're not responsible, there's still a deadline that you have to meet, and you still have to actually do the work and turn it in the proper way. It takes a lot of the responsibility off the teacher's shoulders and places them squarely on yours. You have to make sure that you show up on time for a test. You have to make sure that you're submitting an assignment on time. And if you have like a huge window of time to get it done in, say you have 4 days to do it in, you might save it to the last minute. Whereas if you have an hour because you're in school, in class during that specific time, it's a little bit easier. So kind of staying on top of that stuff, I was very in the habit of just from my schooling. Not everybody has that experience. And not everybody is as regimented as myself. And I'm sure there's people who are way more regimented than me. So I just wanted to kind of put some stuff out there, some tips in case anybody was having trouble with it. Because I felt really, really bad for this mom. You could tell that she felt incredibly guilty, incredibly frightened. And it's one of those fails, quote unquote, where you're like, oh my God, I dropped the ball. And it's my kid that's going to suffer, not necessarily me. My actions are causing detriment to my child. No, mom. I mean, that's like mom's worst, well, one of them, one of many, right? One of our worst nightmares. So, I just wanted to make a video to share how I do things, and maybe 1 or 2 things will apply to you. Anyhow, with that being said, I hope some of this information was helpful to you. If you have any tips on how to stay on track, go ahead and put it in the comments down below. I love to hear stuff like that. When you get a good tip that works for you, it's always an awesome feeling. So go ahead and do that if you have it. Anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you guys are all doing well, enjoying your homeschool journey, and hopefully not stressing too much about scheduling. And again, I hope this video was helpful to you in some way. Take care, and bye for now.